We're so grateful that you all can join us. It's been a wild couple weeks adjusting to this. We do miss being together with everybody here at Gravity on Wednesdays for our weekly meditation sit. And it's been great to sort of make these kinds of connections with you all virtually and digitally. What's been pretty amazing is that since we launched these little webinars, we've had 800, no, I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind already. Yes, having a COVID bad hair day and another COVID brain lamps. We've had 682 folks register for these webinars. And at first we weren't sort of asking for geolocation or where you were logging in from. So we didn't have a sort of full snapshot of that. But so far we have had folks come in from 40 US states and so far 12 countries. And I think what that does for a lot of us is it helps us sort of come together and feel like we're together, feel like we're held together. And so I wanted to show you all a little bit of who we are and where we're coming from, and put together this handy little map to sort of show that. Canada is showing up strong, so rock and roll for the Canadians. And this map here of the US is just the folks that have registered for today. These maps, oh, we lost that, or from the states of the folks that are also registered in from today. And so folks from Australia and Austria, Brazil, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and all over the US, we want to welcome you. Wanted to start with something that I've been thinking about here a little bit, and that sort of in this sense of bringing folks together from all over the world, sort of is this affirmation that yes, the world is changing every day, and yes, we do have the freedom to shape what it becomes by shaping who we become. And that's why this time that we create together is so important, because we don't simply do this for ourselves. We don't give ourselves over to our solitude, silence, and stillness simply for me. We're doing this for one another. We're holding the world together in these interior postures of freedom and of healing. And so I wanted to begin really by reading something to you all. Phileena and I, probably like a lot of you, have been cleaning up your homes, your offices. Looks like everybody's doing a little bit of yard work or those sort of home improvement projects that they haven't been able to get to for a while. And as Phileena was cleaning out her office the other day, she came across this old book that I'd let her borrow. And yes, that's the kind of family we are. We have our own books, and so sometimes we have multiple copies of the same. But she tried to get rid of a book that I gave her to look at, and it's a book by a couple Jungians, Anne and Barry Ulanov, and it's called Primary Speech. It's a psychology of prayer. And I just want to read an opening from the introduction to you. It says, "We all speak many languages. We speak in neat sequences of cause and effect, knowing what we want to say and saying it with something like measurable logic. We speak in quantum jumps, leaping or lurching from point to point, never quite sure of what it is we want to say, but trying nonetheless to say it. We speak in signs and symbols. We speak with knowing indirection, and we speak evasively, sometimes knowing how much we want to dodge confrontation, sometimes not at all aware of how hard we are to track down or even to follow. But on all these worlds of discourse, of thought and feeling, no language is quite so fundamental or so important as one that many of us are not even aware of that we speak, the language of prayer. Prayer starts without words and often ends without them. It knows its own evasions, its own infinite variety of dodges. It works some of the time in signs and symbols, lurches when it must, leaps when it can, has several different kinds of logic at its disposal. The point is that it knows what it is doing, even when it knows that it does not know what it would like to know. Prayer's world is a world of honesty, where we face ourselves, and for as long as we can remember, and perhaps even longer, we have been facing ourselves. Prayer, as this book contemplates it, is primary speech." And what's amazing about this is I think for a lot of us right now, like we don't know how to pray. Like we don't have the words to pray. We don't know what to ask for. We don't know what to hope for. And I realize that holding on to hope is all that some of us have. And so what I love about this book is that it sort of validates that. It gives permission, let's say, to sort of just be able to fall into our practices with helplessness, like the children that we are, the little kids in us that are still growing up, and to turn over to something beyond us. And so I'll put this little reading in the email that comes along with this. But I just wanted to start with that. And then, hey, just not to always bring everything back to the Enneagram or to get like a little Ennea nerdy, but check out the chapters here. Chapter 1, primary speech. Chapter 2, prayer as desire. Chapter 3, prayer and projection. Chapter 4, fantasy and prayer. Chapter 5, living with fantasy. Chapter 6, fear and prayer. Chapter 7, prayer and aggression. Chapter 8, sexuality and prayer. And chapter 9, praying for others. This book does not talk about the Enneagram at all, but man, those chapters line up perfectly with the types. So if you're also looking for something that supports that aspect of yourself, but you're getting a little bit Ennea tired of Ennea everything, blowing up Ennea everywhere, chase this book down. Anyway, welcome everybody. I'm going to turn over to Phileena. So glad that you're able to join us.
Hi there, everyone. It's so good to have you back with us this week. And yeah, it's been intense. I don't know how each of you are doing, but I do know that this pandemic that we're experiencing is really an experience of trauma. And a week ago, Monday, we had our first whole health wellness webinar with Twyla O'Callaghan. And she is a trauma specialist and has been reminding us of that very thing, that what we're experiencing with this pandemic is a form of trauma. And we're each coping with it in different ways. We are coping with it in some conscious ways, and we're coping in some unconscious ways. This Monday, we had with us the wonderful Marion Gilbert, who led us in an awareness practice related to all three centers, the body intelligence, the heart intelligence, and the mind intelligence. And in this way, helping us to become more and more conscious of what's happening for us in this moment. And if you didn't get a chance to attend that webinar, check out the playback. There's all kinds of playbacks for each of these webinars available on our website. And you'll get a follow-up email directing you to that information if you want to see some of the webinars that you're not able to attend. So with this in mind, that we're in a moment of trauma together, and that we really need to turn on all three intelligences in our system, the body, the heart, and the mind. I thought today it would be appropriate to guide you in a practice that will support that three-part awareness. We call this the welcoming practice. Maybe you've heard of it, also called the welcoming prayer. And it's similar to something called focusing. And there are just 3 simple steps. And so if Chris could put on the slide for this, we'll show you these 3 basic steps that I'll be guiding you through. They're simply to focus, to welcome, and to let go. Let's just see. Chris, are you able to put that on? Slide. Just bear with us here a minute. Here it comes. And this practice can also be found on our website. At the end of our time together, Chris will link you to that so you can see where to find this. And so you'll see here that the first step, I'll just give you the instructions and then I'll guide you through it. So the first step is to focus, and we're going to sink into the various commentaries in our body. We'll begin with sensations in the physical body, moving to the heart center and various emotions that we may be experiencing in this moment, and then moving into our thoughts. From there, once we settle in and connect with these various commentaries, we will move into a state of welcoming what is with us in this moment, what is most real, what we are becoming more and more aware of or more and more conscious of. And then after a few moments of that, we will let go of all that we have brought into our attention and awareness, no matter what it is, and no matter if it appears to be positive or negative, we will let it all go. And in this way, we will allow ourselves to sink more deeply into the present moment, align the mind, heart, and body, and then you'll be able to see what the results are at the end of the practice. And so we can move into our seat now, just in a mindful way. So getting comfortable and allowing yourself to be in an upright, supportive posture. Perhaps you're feeling quite exhausted and you need to lay down. That's certainly okay too. And so just let yourself find a posture that will allow you to be attentive. See if you can position the body so that you can be 5 or 10% more comfortable. And I'm going to read a poem by Morgan Harper Nichols in her new book, All Along You Are Blooming, Thoughts for Boundless Living. I'm really enjoying this beautiful, beautiful book of Morgan's art and poetry. And she's going to be with us on Friday for the kids' contemplation for you, for your inner child, or for the children in your life. And so I invite you to join us for that if you like. So let's just settle in now and take a few deep breaths, okay? So just a way of clearing and cleansing and allowing us to come more deeply into the present moment. Let's just inhale together. Inhale now. And exhale. Inhale deeply from the belly here. And exhale. Again, inhale. Exhale completely. And just letting your breath return to its normal function here. You can notice now the effortless effort of the body breathing itself. And if you're having trouble settling into your seat and this moment, I just invite you to do some more deep belly breaths on your own. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely, and you might lengthen the exhale. So if you inhale to a count of 4, you can then exhale to a count of 5. And in this way, just supporting your nervous system to calm down. And so just taking time here with your breath, settling in as I read this reflection from Morgan Harper Nichols. Perhaps the vertical stone structures stacked high between you and others are not as high and wide as they seem to be, and they need not keep you from experiencing this blessed thing called love. And so noticing here that we are all connected, whether we can see one another or not, whether we're in the same room or not, it makes no difference. Notice that we are connected by this thing called love. And now bring your attention to the breath. And notice the breath as it moves in and down on the in-breath, and up and out on the out-breath. Notice the breath as it moves in through the nostrils touching the base of the brain before it reverses direction, dropping down through the throat, the chest, and the belly, where it reverses direction again, moving up through the chest, the neck, touching the base of the brain before it exits through the nostrils. So see if you can notice this automatic rhythmic flow of breath, moving in and down, up and out. And notice the faithfulness of the breath, the way it's always working for your survival. Notice that it's working on your behalf without you thinking about it. Notice now how the chest rises on the inhale and falls on the exhale. You might place one hand on the heart, the chest, just connecting a little more deeply with that automatic rhythmic inflow of breath as the chest rises and falls. And placing the other hand on the belly, you might notice the belly as it expands on the inhale, then deflates on the exhale. And so just notice the rise and fall of the chest and the belly. And taking a moment here to cultivate some gratitude. Gratitude for the breath. The gift of breath, the gift of life. And notice that we're all breathing in unison together here. Now, you can relax the hands, staying present to this rhythmic flow of breath. And now bring your attention to the body. And take some time to inquire about sensations in the body. Notice any points of tension, any points of constriction. You may notice tightness in the neck and shoulders, upper back, soreness perhaps in the lower back. You may notice discomfort in the belly, maybe a racing heart. Or you may notice nothing at all. Or you may notice a sense of calm or peace, quiet stillness in the body. Just notice. It's enough to just place your attention on those sensations. And if at any point, any particular sensation, emotion, or thought threatens to become overwhelming, just let yourself return to that conscious breath by placing a hand on the heart, a hand on the belly, and letting your attention just come back to that free flow, rhythmic, automatic pulse of breath. Now, placing your attention on your heart center, I invite you to notice your state of heart, any emotions that may be registering there. You may be noticing some anxiety. Maybe it's difficult to be quiet and still. You may be noticing some frustration, perhaps some sorrow, sadness. Just see if you can be curious and inquire how your heart is right here, right now, in this moment. Maybe you're noticing a feeling of calm and peace. Or perhaps you're noticing numbness, nothing at all. Without judgment, without commentary, simply let your attention fall on your heart space, noticing your emotions or the lack of emotion. Now, bringing your attention to the mind, notice any thoughts that may be drifting by or perhaps capturing your attention. So without getting caught up in your thoughts, see if you can be the observer, creating a little distance between you and the activity of the mind. So practice being the witness. What thoughts are in the mind? Perhaps you're thinking about concerns in your life, concerns about the future. Perhaps you're thinking about loved ones or thinking about your experience right here and now. Again, without any judgment or commentary, just be curious and inquire about your state of mind. What's happening in your mind? Now be very gentle with yourself. Cultivate some compassion as you look at the whole of you. Sensations, emotions, thoughts. And see if you can imagine this sense of warmth around you, a supportive energy field, just circling around you like a warm hug. Around your mind, around your heart, around your body. And see if you can allow yourself to be hospitable to sensations that you noticed, and that you may be noticing now. Letting yourself welcome those sensations. Just one by one, naming them, welcoming them to your inner table, like you're preparing a banquet. Welcome each and every sensation that you're noticing, whether you label it as negative or positive, just welcome. If it feels like something negative that you don't want to welcome, I invite you to consider the invitation to love your enemies, to relinquish that impulse to resist what you don't like, and instead welcome. Without judgment, welcome everything that is right here, right now in your sensations. Invite them to take a seat at your inner banquet table. Let them know, I see you, I welcome you. If this feels difficult, take as much time as you need, return to your breath, and consider what it would be like to stop resisting and instead welcome. Be with what is most real right here, right now. And if you can do that, you'll notice a gentle shift of energy inside of you, a gentle, slight relief that opens up. From here, we'll move into the heart space, welcoming those feelings and emotions that we've identified. Positive and negative emotions alike, everything is welcome here. Everything belongs. Just cultivate that hospitality, that compassion, welcoming what is. And again, if you are having difficulty or feeling overwhelmed, just let yourself return your attention to the breath and follow that breath as it flows in and down, up and out. And moving now to the mind, noticing those thoughts that we've identified and letting ourselves welcome each and every one. To sit down at that inner table with our feelings, our emotions, our sensations. All are welcome here. This is what is most true and most real right here and now. So welcoming what is. And now moving to the third and final step of this practice, we'll move into letting go. So returning our attention to those sensations in the body. And as we've welcomed those sensations to our table, surrounding them with compassion and hospitality, we can now let go one by one. The gathering is coming to a close. The banquet is ending. You see if you can let go of each and every sensation. Letting yourself grow more and more detached from those sensations. Less identified with those sensations. And then we'll move into the heart space and likewise, noticing each and every emotion and letting them go one by one. You might say inside, I let go of anger. I let go of fear. I let go of anxiety. I let go of frustration. I let go of sorrow. One by one, just letting go, creating some space to be less identified with those emotions. And then we can move into the mind, noticing each of those thoughts that we welcomed, and now letting them go one by one. You might even envision each and every sensation, emotion, and thought just quietly and gently exiting the room, your inner room. And once you feel complete, you can return your attention to the breath, noticing the breath moving in and down, up and out. And I'll offer this poem from Morgan Harper Nichols as we close out this practice. Maybe on the other side of this, there will be a row of city lights. Maybe, just maybe, they will light up the sky and remind us the world is filled with life. We have lost more than we could ever imagine, but now we carry with us a hope that shines as bright as a summer meteor shower, and love that holds as steady as the ground beneath our feet. And the more we climb, we are beginning to find just how valuable life is. So that brings our meditation sit time to a close, and we want to transition now to some time to be together in some conversation, as well as we can do this through a webinar. I'm going to invite Chris back on if he wants to turn his video on, and I thought I would just maybe try to share a little bit of how we're doing. Some of you have asked about that, and it's nice for us to be able to check in with you as we did last week. And it's been so intense, and I think each of us is just doing our best to cope with this pandemic. None of us have ever experienced anything like this, and chances are we'll never experience anything quite like this again in our lifetime. And none of us could be prepared for this, and none of us quite know how to deal with it. And so Chris and I have been coping as best as we can, impacted personally and professionally here at Gravity. And it occurred to me yesterday, well, actually, I guess it was over the weekend, Chris and I were out with Basil for our traditional Sunday outing, and we're just talking about like how tired we are, and the realization that subconsciously our brain is working very hard to scan the environment and take in various data to reassure the system that we're okay, that we're safe. And so there's a lot going on subconsciously, I think, that's contributing to the exhaustion. And then Chris and I have actually just done a huge overhaul to our daily work life, like the way that we function, the way that we work, the way that we are managing, the various kinds of contributions that we're making in the world. Like everything's kind of shifted and changed, and we're learning a whole new system with being online through these webinars and different things, and so there's been a lot of adjustments in that regard too, and so that's been draining. And so yesterday I just realized how horribly exhausted I really am, and interestingly, how much I was resisting that exhaustion. And I was able to meet with my spiritual director over the phone, and what a gift she was to me to help me come to that realization. And by just making a slight shift from having unconsciously been resisting how exhausted I am and wishing that I was not so tired so that I could actually accomplish more during this strained time, by just shifting that and noticing, like we did today, welcoming what is, and then letting myself be with what is, offered a great relief to me. I'm still exhausted, but now I don't have the added drain of resisting what is true for me right now. And so learning to be more kind with myself, learning to be more receptive to the gift of slowing down, the permission to slow down. That's where I'm at, like just trying to adjust to that and welcome that. Chris, how about you? You want to share a little bit about how you're doing?
Sure. Appreciate all that, Phileena. Yesterday was a really, really hard day, actually. And it was like death by 1,000 paper cuts. I mean, it just kept coming in, and our formal, whatever normal real lives used to be, it would have been basically a normal day. And so I was kind of grappling with that, like, how have we changed so much that like we can't even really deal with what used to be normal, and what is that going to mean for the new normal? And so I kind of hit a wall, and I felt like I just kept hitting it and hitting it again, and needed to just stop what I was doing, change where I was sitting, spend a little bit of time with my dog, pour myself a cup of coffee, and just started to find this sense of hoping that for all of us, like, our ups outweigh our downs, because at the beginning of all of this uncertainty and all these changes, like, I was having some pretty all right days, and I was having some pretty hard days, and then very, very quickly into this, it was like, nope, I'm having some really, really great moments and some really terrible moments throughout the same days. And so, like Phileena said, I think the work here is to just learn to unconditionally cooperate with what is. There's nothing we can do to change this. And I know that there's some of us who fundamentally have this unhealthy relationship with control, and man, we just need to let go of that. There's no timer on this. There's no countdown on this. We don't know when some of us will get back to whatever it's going to be. And so it's a practice of surrender. It's a practice of confessing that we're not in control, and confessing that we really do need each other. And that's why I love seeing so many of you here over, in this chat space, like all these folks, all these old friends and new friends, and this whole way of learning to belong to each other and be together differently. And so just really, really grateful for you all. I also think maybe part of what we're going to learn and how we're all going to change is how we be together, right? So I'm still doing some of my Enneagram one-on-one calls with some folks, and I was on a call today with someone who's a mental health provider, and man, I feel like she just kind of flipped the tables on me, like spent the first part of the call almost like offering some therapy for me and helping me find myself in this moment. And I asked her, I was like, so who do you have? Like, who do you go to? And then I realized, like, oh my God, she's calling me. Like maybe I'm the who she goes to, and just felt terrible. Like I want to be and bring the best of myself. And I think in that moment I had to realize like the best of ourselves is our vulnerable self. It's the part of ourself that we can no longer protect or front or position or parse out, but it's just really being honest with who we are and being honest together. And so, man, it's not easy for any of us. I'm afraid that it's going to get harder before it gets better for a lot of us. But I just think we can create the world that we're going to live in by creating within us today the people that we want to become. Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Chris. You know, we thought we would try something different today with the Q&R time. So if I can invite you to be to the attendees, if I can invite you to be brief, I'm going to try to allow you to talk and to ask your question vocally, because I seem to have the option here to do that. So what we're going to try here is for you to, if you want to ask a question, if you would raise your hand. So if you go to your little name over in the attendee box.
High five, social distance high five across the screen.
Yeah, there's a way to raise your hand. I think if you like right click on your name or something. Yeah, there's a bunch of hands coming up now. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to click here on Mindy Durius, and it says allow to talk. So let's see what happens. Okay, here we go. Mindy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome. I can hear you. Hopefully everyone else can hear you too. Can some people in the chat let me know that you can hear Mindy right now? Yay!
Yes. And if you want, it would be great to see you, but I know some of us are social distancing in our pajamas.
I don't even know if that's possible
okay.
in the webinar. But Mindy, tell us what's going on. What are your thoughts, your question?
Yeah, I just really appreciate you both being open and honest with where you're at. And I just have a question, how you would address the people who are at home, but actually aren't slowing down up because home lives are very full of people that they're caring for there, whether that's kids or extended family. And so they're actually not having the sort of letdown of, I don't have anything to do. They have more the overwhelm of, I have way too much to do.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Mindy. I bet there's a lot of people in the webinar today that can identify with that. So I'm going to just mute you here and try to address this. Thanks, Mindy. Okay, so I really appreciate the question, and I really identify with it because, and in fact, I was wanting to like feel guilty for being so busy the last few weeks, you know, because some folks are reflecting on how this is, you know, a gift because we're all slowing down and we have all this time, and Chris and I are not having that experience at all. And like the families that you've mentioned here, Mindy, it's like, yeah, for many of us, life has gotten very intense, very busy during this crisis. And so how do we deal with that? And so I can only speak from, you know, what's coming to me right now this week. And that is forcing myself really to take time to take inventory, just like we did even with this practice today, to realize what's happening for me, in my family with Chris, really giving permission for family members to take that inventory, to be with, you know, to be truthful with one another, with ourselves, and together figure out what to do. For Chris and me, that has meant, you know, some really honest conversations and communication around expectations for what I can do and contribute to in the life of our family and the life of our work together. Chris, would you have something to add to that?
Yeah, so it's funny. in my old, oh, so this is kind of a bummer. Right now I would have been on a flight from Denver to Tokyo with a good friend of mine to spend about 12 days in Japan, Thailand, and Nepal, just catching my breath from what was a really dense last 6 months. And that just seems like a lifetime ago. Some of you know, like in my old normal life, I was on 110 to 130 flights a year. And that's been basically true for about 20 years. And so right now, since, I don't know what it was, March 12th, March 13th, something like that. Like this has been one of the longest stretches I've been in the same zip code. And by the time I leave Omaha, I imagine this will be the longest stretch I've ever been in a zip code since 1996. So I'm gone a lot in my real life. And when I'm home in my real life, I'm not even at home. I'm out seeing friends or my nieces. And so now it's, wow, we're together in this little tiny condo. And Phileena, as a introvert who loves her interior solitude, silence, and stillness, in my old life used to say, hey, don't you have a trip coming up soon? Which was her way of kind of saying it'd be great for some creative absence for the marriage. And now she's stuck with me. And we're trying to sort of figure out how to navigate in this dance of togetherness. And I don't know how to be home, and I don't know how to be at home. And so I'm trying to find ways of listening to what that's an invitation of. You know, we don't have children, and we got this dog, and this is the longest, actually, this is the longest stretch that Phileena and I have both been together with our dog since adopting him a few years ago. And what shocks me is Basil is actually communicating with us very clearly in ways he never has. And every day there's kind of this light bulb goes on with Phileena and I, where it's like, oh my God, this dog is actually this smart. Like this dog actually can communicate with us. And I think what's happening is the consistency of presence and togetherness is allowing for a kind of safety in him to flourish and to emerge and to come forward. And I think that's the same invitation for me. This presence, this consistency, because we are consistently in place and space right now, has to be an invitation to sort of letting new things come out of us. And so just trying to be patient with it and respond to it.
I'm going to call on Sarah Johnson. Sarah, I'm going to turn your mic on and see if you would talk to us here. Are you there, Sarah?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. So I'm curious how you guys are navigating the fact that it is Holy Week for those of us who are Christian people, and I'm Catholic myself, and it's a really big challenge to think that, you know, I'm not going to get to go to Mass Thursday night and Saturday night, and those are like the most important days of the year in my experience with the church. And I'm just curious what some of your practices might be that you guys might try on, and how, or if you've thought about it.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, I'll tell you, in the church calendar, this is the most special time of the year for me as well. And over the years, honestly, it's been less important to me to go to a service as it has been to live the mystery of what is being revealed through the church calendar at this time. And so I honestly, as I consider that this is Holy Week, that we're moving into that part of the Paschal mystery of suffering, death, and resurrection, I just think, my God, we have been given an opportunity to live that mystery in a way that we've never known before. And so for me, it's about turning on that lens of perception around really recognizing my own suffering, naming it, and then following Spirit through the process of dying and letting go of that suffering by fully entering into it, not resisting it or avoiding it or trying to move away from it, but with arms stretched wide, accepting and entering into it fully, as a way of breaking through to the other side, into that new life that wants to be birthed in me and through me. So I'm glad that it's Holy Week, and I'm not bothered by the fact that we can't turn to our traditional services, because I think right in the very tangible circumstances of our day-to-day life is that mystery of this time that we can access in a way that maybe we couldn't have before.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like, this whole languaging of like Good Friday, right? This is the day that we mark the memorial of a violent death of an innocent person, and we call it good. It just seems ridiculous to me. But I think this week there's an invitation for all of us to consider what is good about the painful places we find ourselves in today. And man, I don't know how to find the goodness sometimes in these struggles. And yeah, it's going to take a couple days for all of that goodness to sort of find life, to be resurrected in us. And so I do think Phileena is right. There's something about this week that's going to allow us to find some kind of unlikely, unexpected goodness in the pain. And these aren't things that happen overnight. These things take time, and these things grow over time. And so, yeah, let's give it a few days and see what comes to life from it.
Well, Chris, we have 6 minutes left, and I'm not sure how much time you need to bring a close to our time. Do we have time for one more question if somebody wants to ask something?
Sure, yeah.
Just raise your hand if, ooh, there she is, Deb. Yay! Hi, Deb. Can you hear me?
I can. Hey guys, how are you?
Hi. Good to hear your voice.
Oh, you're such a balm for all our souls, honestly are. I wondered if you could talk about how much the fatigue is affected by the collective. I guess I'm sort of interested in that.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. And okay, so yeah, this is a really important point that Deb has brought up, that, you know, more than ever, we are realizing how interconnected we really are, that we really are one organism. And if we come from a Christian faith background, we can appreciate that through the imagery of the body of Christ. We are one, and we've never known it more than we know it now, so viscerally. And so that, that awareness of the collective fatigue, anxiety, everything that we're all experiencing in this disorientation and disruption of our individual system is disrupting the collective system. And we're certainly affected by that. So, I mean, again, the Christian symbolism is really helpful. And in St. Paul's writings, Basil is wanting to get out of my office. So if you hear that little noise, that's what that is. Can you come over here, baby? Just leave it. But anyway, Paul's analogy around, you know, if one part of the body is suffering, another part is suffering too. And what an opportunity for us to be conscious of that in a way that we've not before. So I think certainly we're being affected. Yeah. Chris, you want to have the last word? And I'll
sure. And some of you are probably familiar with the work of Ilia Delio. She was a quantum physicist who became a Franciscan nun and then teaches theology through science. Well, she talks about this notion of quantum entanglement. And this is this idea that every molecule that exists have always existed. And so, you know, if the molecules that make up my body were configured, let's say, in a palm tree in Sri Lanka 300 years ago, some of those molecules may also make up your bodies. And she sort of has this notion that in this idea of quantum entanglement, that if I called you and you're like, that's so weird, I was just thinking about you and you called me, she's like, that's the memory of the molecules just relating to each other. And so I do think there is this kind of interesting emerging conversation of the why and how we're connected. But look, we all suffered what was happening when the fires were burning in the Amazon and Brazil. We all suffered when Australia was engulfed in flames. And that's because we've also breathed the same air that those trees that were being burned to the ground had created through oxygenizing and purifying that. And so we breathe the same air. We are made from the same substance. And Deb, I think we feel the pain for each other. And that's where, man, I'm going to try to carry the heartache and the sadness for someone who can't carry it for themselves today. And when I really am too overwhelmed, I need somebody to help carry it for me. And that's our shared gift and our shared burden. And so that's why I love what we're doing here and why we come together like this.
Okay,
So
Chris,
you.
before we transition, can we just let everybody say hi to Basil for a minute? He finally got up here. He's been under my desk this whole time. Oh, sweet baby. If we could just all learn how to go with the flow like him, that'd be nice, huh? Okay, back to you.
So I'm gonna put this up here again. If you're just joining us for the first time, we're doing this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And what we're doing is very specific. And so on Mondays, we're bringing a specialist together. These are mental health and health professionals, healthcare professionals, who just help us find our sense of place and space in the present, and are trying to offer very mindful ways of caring for ourselves. On Wednesday, we're going to try to help guide spiritual practice. I've said this before. Yes, we're all home. Yes, we're all stuck. And now is the best time to pick up a meditation practice. But man, if you're experiencing all of the trauma and the pain and the uncertainty, for some of us to drop into solitude, silence, and stillness might actually wind some of that up. And if you didn't have a mindfulness practice, what we want to do is just offer something that's guided, where you can just sort of sit into it, relax, and sort of be held by it. And so that's what we do today, and that's what we'll continue to do on Wednesdays. And then on Fridays, Phileena mentioned this at the beginning, we're having kids contemplation sessions, and that's for the inner child in us, but that's specifically for the little kids in your home, in your life. And the first part of that will be a guided exercise or practice with a parent or caregiver and a child. And then the second half of that will be conversation with these folks. And so this coming Friday, we have Morgan Harper Nichols. If you don't know who Morgan Harper Nichols is, get on Instagram right now and follow her. She's a artist and a poet. And actually, she was on Rainn Wilson's Instagram Live show today. That's the guy who played Dwight from The Office. And so from Rainn Wilson to Gravity, we're going to be super thrilled to have her. But she's going to do kind of an art practice for kids and for adults on Friday. So please stay close to us. If there's anything that we can do to help any of you, we are here for you. That's why we started Gravity. Be honest with your pain. Allow it to exist. Don't feel any pressure to not be okay. I think it's okay to be angry. I think it's okay to be sad. I think it's okay to be afraid. I think these things are telling us the truth about things that we need to ingest, metabolize, and learn to let go. But really just be kind to yourself and hold yourself with compassion. So thanks so much for joining us. Really, really grateful to have you all here.